Hello everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's some people still trickling in. Hopefully you all grabbed a green intent to participate form, and you should have a white packet that talks about College Credit Plus at Upper Sandusky High School. If you didn't, please go back in the back and do that before you leave today, because we'll get into those a little bit more towards the end. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Crystal Dunlap. I'm the junior and senior school counselor here at Upper. So tonight we're going to talk about how students can earn college credit during high school. You may have learned or may have read somewhere that every year you have to be advised on the College Credit Plus program in order to meet that state requirement to participate the following year. So this meeting tonight fulfills that requirement for the students and the parents that are here tonight. So moving forward, we're going to kind of an overview of the night. I'm going to turn it over here shortly to one of our representatives from Ohio State University. He's going to give the overview of CCP in general, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about CCP right at Upper specifically, and then we're going to have questions and answers at the end. Before we go into that, I want to do some introductions. We have Mrs. Allison Cheney. She's in the back. She's our freshman sophomore counselor. Then we have our college reps here. Tom Alexander from the Ohio State University in Marion. We have Ellie Hess from Marion Technical College in the back. Angie McGinnis from Owens Community College. Rebecca Hillman from the University of Findlay. Andrea Wise from Tiffin University. And Scott George from North Central State College. Okay. So this time I'm going to turn it over to Tom Alexander from Ohio State University.
How's everyone doing? Good. That was really enthusiastic, okay? I get that it's a Monday. Bear with me, we're going to get through this together. So first things first, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items before I get into the State College Credit Plus presentation. First, I just want to thank Mrs. Dunlap for having me come out here. I have known Mrs. Dunlap now for around 6 years that I've been in college admissions, and I've always been kind of fortunate enough to work in the North Central, Northwest Ohio territory, even as I've changed different institutions and schools. And I always love the opportunity to come out to schools like Upper Sandusky. It's very comparable to where I graduated from in Monroeville, and anytime we can share some information with students in a similar background, we like to do that. Second housekeeping item. How many students in this room had to listen to me run my mouth all day on Friday in the college and career class? I know I saw a couple familiar faces. I just want to apologize to you folks specifically that you have to listen to me some more. It's not always the most enjoyable thing, but again, I'll try to make it bearable for you. And lastly, I try to be as short and sweet as I can. The problem is with the College Credit Plus program, there is a lot of information to cover. This presentation that the state gives us is over 50 slides. I've done my best to trim it down to what I think is really relevant to you folks. Keep in mind that Mrs. Dunlap gave me around 35 minutes, which is what I asked for, knowing that I'll probably go for 45 minutes. But we're going to cover a lot, and we're going to cover a lot really quickly. The one thing I cannot emphasize enough is once we're done, you're going to have the opportunity to ask questions to the different institutions that you may be interested in participating in College Credit Plus with. Utilize them as a resource. You know, when you're talking about gathering this information and taking college courses, definitely utilize your colleges to get that information. I think sometimes, you know, it gets overlooked how hard school counselors have to work. Mrs. Dunlap, Mrs. Cheney both probably advise around 280 students apiece. Plus, that's all the scheduling here in the high school. It's the college and career piece. It's the state testing. And then you throw a program on this on top of it. That's a lot. You know, if it relates to your high school schedule, high school paperwork, definitely go to your school counselors for that. But when it relates to requirements for the college and what courses are available, utilize us folks. We love it when our phone rings, I promise you. We all get bored during the day. We don't have a ton of work to do, right, Mac? You know, not a whole lot going on for us. So pick up the phone, get a hold of us on the college campuses. We'd be happy to step you through what you need to be doing to successfully transition into being a College Credit Plus student, and also hopefully successfully translating into being a college student. So with that being said, I'm going to start getting into the information. Definitely, you know, again, can't emphasize enough, ask questions when we're done here today. So just kind of starting off, what is the College Credit Plus program? College Credit Plus is Ohio's dual credit program here in the state of Ohio. A few years back, it replaced the program that we used to refer to as PSEO. Now it's College Credit Plus. Essentially, all it means to you as a student is you have the opportunity to earn college credit and high school credit simultaneously. Now, The big thing that you'll hear me emphasize as we talk about this program is when you're taking college credits, you are a college student, and you will adhere to the requirements of that college course. And as it relates to this program, I always want to emphasize, I'll never tell a student or a family, hey, this is a good program or it's a bad program, because it really is a student-to-student kind of conversation. And the one thing to keep in the back of your mind as you're talking about College Credit Plus and the different options that you have is, who am I as a student? Is this program a good fit for me? And we'll kind of talk through some scenarios that I've seen in my time interacting with the program that might help you gauge, A, if this is a program that you want to opt into, and also where you want to opt into that program at, because it can really be dictated by how those schools offer courses. Some more just general information about the program. It's open to students from 7th to 12th grade, and there's definitely requirements that students have to meet to be eligible for the program, and you can really apply to multiple institutions as you're weighing your options. If you're not eligible for the program at one university, you may be eligible for the program at another university, and that's where, again, this information can get a little bit overwhelming, so be sure to touch base with your partners in higher education to help us clarify that for you. But the theme would be that you do have options as a student. You also have options in terms of the kinds of courses that you can take. Depending on who you are as a student, that may open you up to different levels of coursework. Now, you do have to be a resident in the state of Ohio to be eligible for the program, and then as it also relates to options, you can take those courses in a variety of different platforms. It could be in the class, it could be online, it could be seated on a college campus. So different avenues for you to accumulate that credit. As you're taking courses, they count simultaneously for high school and college credit. You can see here the equation. I know there's some information in the packet that was handed out as well that helps you determine how many credits at a college campus you would be able to take. So you can see a 3 college credit hour course is going to account for 1 high school unit at your high school, and generally speaking you have 30 credit hours to use up through the course of the semester or year at that college or university. And again, multiple platforms, and you can do this spring semester, summer semester, fall semester at the college campuses, depending on how it fits into your schedule as a student. So how do you participate? You have to be eligible. We already talked about that, and there are different participation exams that students can take. Things like the AccuPlacer is one avenue. Ohio State specifically uses the ACT and have also started utilizing AccuPlacer as well. But again, institution to institution conversation in terms of what they're looking for when they're admitting students to the College Credit Plus program. And again, different requirements across all of them, so I sound like a broken record, but go back to those colleges and universities and ask them what their requirements are going to be for you as a student. You have to be determined by the state to be college ready, and that you're ready for college level coursework. And that's kind of up to the universities to determine if you meet that college ready standard on their campus, but there are some standard state metrics in place that determine if a student is college ready. Ultimately, if you don't meet those benchmarks from a testing standpoint, in the ACT, for an example, there are other criteria that school could look at, and you can see maybe it's GPA, maybe it's a letter of recommendation. The big piece is that ultimately the college has the final decision in terms of whether or not they're going to admit you. It is not the counseling office who says yes or no, you can do College Credit Plus at this school. It is the college or university who makes that decision. So, the first step is to take those placement exams. The second step is determine which schools you want to apply to and apply to those universities, and communicate with them about other supplemental materials, and then await that decision to determine if you're going to be admitted to the College Credit Plus program at that individual college or university. And then from there, it really is a matter of communicating with both the high school and the college or university to determine what kind of course options you're going to take and when you're going to take those courses. You'll see that one of the things that this piece of legislation mandates is all of you at whatever college or university, and even if you enroll at multiple colleges or universities through CCP, are going to have an academic advisor at that college campus who is really tasked with making sure that you're putting yourself in a position to be successful at that school while you're a College Credit Plus student there. So you do have multiple layers of support, but when in terms of scheduling those college courses, you will work with an academic advisor at that college or university to handle that scheduling process. So in terms of what courses you can take, using examples that I'm more familiar with, at Ohio State, we're going to look at ACT and SAT scores in certain areas to determine, if I have 21 in English, then I can take a certain level English coursework. If I have a certain score in math, I can take a certain level math course. And then there's, some more general education courses that students can take. Ultimately, you can really take any course. Typically, we feel comfortable telling students that a freshman level course, as long as there are not prerequisites or placement test scores in place for those courses. The other piece is that they cannot be courses that are religious in nature. State piece of legislator, separation of church and state, that is another caveat. Your courses that you take, not only do they count for high school and college credit, they also count for high school graduation, and they're also going to count for high school and college GPA. And we'll talk about some of the implications of that as we move through the presentation here. You have to fulfill high school graduation requirements. I don't know why you wouldn't want to fulfill high school graduation requirements, especially if you're taking college courses. It seems like your plan would be to go to college. There are very few colleges and universities that are going to admit you without a high school diploma or a GED. Those two things go hand in hand. So, you can kind of kill two birds with one stone, but you want to make sure you're still handling your business at the high school. And I know sometimes, especially when students are going out and taking courses on college campuses, that can sometimes be a disconnect. It can get lost in the shuffle, but your first job before anything else is to graduate high school, and remember that. And if you do some other things along the way to complement your resume as a high school student, that's great, but not at the sacrifice of handling your business in this building. And we still want you to be high school students. We want you to get involved and get engaged, be athletes, be a member of student organizations here, but also do some things to complement that resume academically, and that's where College Credit Plus comes into play as well. Again, courses have to be college level courses. We cannot have you take remedial courses. So if you're a student, again, that's why we have the placement testing in place. We can't have you take remedial math because you're probably not going to make that requirement from a testing standpoint anyway to be eligible from the program. And I already made mention, cannot take religion coursework. So, again, grades, they count for both high school and college GPA. Why is that important? Well, again, my guess is the majority of you have plans to look at going to a college or university, so we're going to see all of these college courses reflected on your transcripts, and that's also going to be reflected in your GPA. Obviously, some schools are more competitive from an admission standpoint than others, but you obviously don't want to hurt your GPA in either standpoint. The other thing is, whatever college you enroll in, that college GPA you've earned through the College Credit Plus program is going to go with you. So right away, you're starting off with a standard in place, and there's a couple different ways that standard could go. We obviously want that to be a high standard that you're setting for yourself, but that GPA that you earn in this program is going to follow you to college, and that can have some big time implications for you as a student. I'll talk a little bit later about cost implications, but even when we're talking about long-term student success, I can tell you in my time dealing with this program, I have seen students who, hey, I want to apply for the College of Nursing at Ohio State. Very competitive college to be admitted to, and because they got a D in a College Credit Plus course, that's pulled their GPA down, and they're not as competitive of an applicant as they could be. And again, there's some cost implications as well. The other thing is, it's not out of the realm of possibility for a student to be placed on academic probation or even dismissed from a college or university before they're even technically admitted there as an undergraduate student because of their track record in this program. Again, if you opt into college level courses, you are a college student at that campus, and you are held to the same standards as college students on that campus. So again, you want to be really sure that you're investing in this program wisely, and when you do, that you're holding yourself to a high standard. Really common question we get, on the admission side of things for freshman students is, hey, I want my application to be as competitive as it could be. So do you guys preference AP versus CCP versus honors courses? And specifically on our campus, no, we don't. And I think that would probably be true of most schools. We kind of treat all of those courses equally, and you can see here in this program, they're factored into your high school GPA equally. So there's really no difference there. It's about finding those courses that you think you could be successful in, that are going to be a good fit for you, your schedule, and your long-term goals. But you're not going to be disadvantaging yourself one way or the other if you decide to take AP history versus college history. There's really no pro or con either way. The benefit of that is you're taking a challenging curriculum, and that's what most colleges or universities want to see that you're doing. Taking a challenging curriculum that you can be successful in. So you want to be taking courses that will help fulfill your high school graduation requirements. We don't want you taking a lot of dance courses and bowling courses. Now you probably have a PE requirement for high school graduation, and there is some equivalent there where you could take PE courses on a college campus and meet that high school, but probably your better bet is to take that course at the high school, to be honest with you, as opposed to spending a lot of time on a college campus fulfilling health and PE requirements. You'd be better served maybe taking that Psychology 101, that college writing course that you know is going to transfer to most colleges and universities that you'd be looking at. That's probably a better investment of your time. So make sure you're focusing on fulfilling those high school graduation requirements. And you still have to complete your end of course exams. So that's something not to lose sight of as well. Again, that goes back to handling your business at the high school. You still have to finish things out here. Even if you're taking all of your courses at a college campus, you still got some requirements to hold up back here to get that high school diploma. So again, we already kind of touched on this. The thing that, to be honest with you, is kind of scary to me as someone who works in higher education is that bottom bullet point there. Students in this program can earn, from the time they're a 7th grader to the time that they're a 12th grader, they can earn 120 credit hours. And for at least 2 of the schools that I've worked at that were 4-year colleges and universities, that's basically enough to fulfill a bachelor's degree. So if a student really wanted to, if they met the criteria, you could be out of here from Upper Sandusky with your bachelor's degree in hand. I will tell you, I do not think that is the ideal scenario. I'll talk a little bit more about why you might want to think that through in a little bit, but the legislature says you can earn up to 120 credit hours through this program. Now there is a maximum there, and again, you've got the worksheets, and I'm sure Mrs. Dunlap will talk a little bit more specifically to figuring out your schedule, figuring out how many courses that you have the eligibility to take once you get that class schedule in place here at Upper Sandusky. If you really want to be an overachiever, or if you're not paying attention when you schedule and work with your college advisor, the possibility does exist that you could exceed the maximum number of credits that you would be eligible to take, and if you do that, you're going to pay for that course, okay? And you'll pay for it out of pocket. You'll resume all financial responsibility for that course, textbooks, tuition. So you want to make sure you work really hand in hand to get your high school schedule in place, and then communicate very closely again with that college and university to make sure that I know I have 6 credit hours of eligibility. I'm only going to schedule 6 credit hours on that college campus. I will see students who are okay with paying out of pocket because for whatever reason that's going to feel like they put them in a position to be successful down the road. So you do have that option as a student, but know that you have that limit in place, and for most students they don't want to exceed that limit. The other thing, and this is where I go back to the beginning when I said it's really important for you to know who you are as a student, and making sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to be successful. High school and college coursework are very different, and I think that shouldn't come as a surprise to you if you're thinking about taking advantage of this program or going to college someday, but you'll see very different academic environments in the high school, and especially if you're going out to a college campus to take classes. I always think it's important for students to understand that you are held to the same standard as a 21-year-old who is in that class. So you're going to be given a syllabus. Those expectations really don't change. When you schedule a 3 o'clock class on a college campus, but you have an extracurricular that meets at 3 o'clock, the college doesn't care, so you want to try to avoid that. I mean, you're expected to be in class. This is the one that always kind of throws students off. There are not snow days, really, in college. Now, your professor may cancel class, and this will bring me to another really important point. If you are enrolled at a college, please check your email. I know it's 2017 and email's like an archaic form of communication for you. If we could tweet it to you, we would. But college and universities communicate via email. And you have to adapt to that now if you're going to enroll in the College Credit Plus program. Your professors are going to email you if they're canceling class. They're going to email you if they're changing an assignment date. They are not going to email your mom and dad. They're not going to email Mrs. Dunlap or anyone in the school office, more than likely. They're going to communicate that with you. And that's where, enrolling in this program puts a little bit of a layer of responsibility on a student. On that note, this is always a fun part of the conversation as well. Parents, your students enroll in college. We are not allowed to give you their information. So in high school, Billy brings home that D+. You can call up Mr. Smith and say, hey, I noticed Billy got a D+. What's been going on in class? If you try to do that to a college professor, they're going to laugh at you first, and then they're going to hang up the phone. When your students opt into college level coursework, their professors are instructed by this legislation to treat them like college students. Part of this program is hopefully giving students an accurate representation of what it means to be a college student and help them make more smart and informed decisions about whether or not college is going to be a good option for them. Part of that is, again, holding them to the same standard as any other college student. So it very much becomes your student's investment in their future. It's not mom and dad's investment. So when we're talking about filling out applications, students should be the one filling out those applications. I told you I'm not going to tell you this is a good program or a bad program, but if you're sitting here saying, man, I know I'm going to have a hard time getting my student to fill out the application, red alert that this is a bad program for them. Because that's just the first hurdle for them to get over, and there's going to be a lot of other things that are student driven when we're talking about being successful at the college level. So you want to be really sure, again, when we talk about knowing your student, that they've got a certain level of responsibility before they opt into a program like this. Now, I told you there's some big time benefits and there's some big time consequences. I'm going to touch on a couple of those and, like I said, give you some examples that I've seen. So obviously, two birds, one stone, high school credit, college credit at the same time. You're not, delaying your timeline at all. If anything, you're speeding it up a little bit. Help you get a better gauge for if college is going to be the right fit for you. I like the quotation here, Head Start. The one thing or caveat that I will throw out there, and I'm sure my colleagues in the back can probably relate to this, make sure, again, that you're communicating with the college and universities about what your long-term plans are, and making sure that, when we're talking about long-term plans, we're thinking about where we want to be, not next semester in terms of college course, but really 4 or 5 years down the road. A lot of times I see students, I talked to the college and career class about this on Friday, students who could get the job or career that they want with a 2-year degree, yet they're only looking at 4-year colleges and universities for whatever reason. And if you know the requirements that you're going to need, you're starting with the end game in mind, that'll make selecting your College Credit Plus courses easier. That will also make selecting the college and universities that you want to pursue your undergraduate degree at. The other big piece is, and some will probably debate this with me, but this is where I get the soapbox so I can say it and use my opinion here. To me, this is not a program that you want to use to fast track yourself to a bachelor's degree. And I can tell you specifically, I've had multiple conversations over the last couple years where I have students coming in and they say, hey, I've really taken advantage of this College Credit Plus program and I'm going to graduate with an associate's degree. So I want you to tell me how I'm going to get my bachelor's degree in 2 years. And really quickly, I kind of have to give them some negative messaging that just because you have 2 years of college coursework out of the way does not mean we only have 2 years left. That's why I say communicate with the colleges and universities, because just because you have those 2 years of courses does not mean that they're going to transfer to that college or university. It does not mean that they're going to fulfill those graduation requirements for that degree program at that college or university. Here's the other piece, and again, this is opinion, but it drives me nuts. Parents and students for that matter, quit trying to grow up so quick. Okay, there is a reason why there's some natural stopping points when we look at college and career. There is, in my opinion, a reason why it's a 4-year degree, and I'll give you a great example. I told you I've had some conversations with students, a couple young ladies specifically, who come in and say, I've got 60 credit hours, I want to be able to get my bachelor's degree in 2 years. Okay, what do you want to major in? High school education. Go back to your high school and ask your principal or your superintendent if they would ever hire a 19-year-old high school English teacher. And I think the answer you're going to get is absolutely not. On the college side of things, where our job is to churn people out into the workforce, here's what we're hearing from employers. College graduates, and we're talking about 21 and 22-year-olds, they lack life skills, they lack maturity, and they lack a lot of the experiences that they want to see new employees in the workplace have. When you start condensing that timeline to a bachelor's degree down to 2 years, handing bachelor's degrees to 19, 20-year-olds, personally, I don't think we're putting students in the best position to be successful. Okay? Now, I'm all for you saving a little bit of time and a little bit of money, and again, that's where knowing the end game is really important. If you're the student who's sitting here saying, I want to go to medical school, then absolutely get your bachelor's degree as quick as you can, and College Credit Plus is a great avenue to do that. Again, if you're that student saying, hey, I can probably get what I want in a 2-year program, well, maybe, okay, let's shave a semester off of that 2-year program. But don't rush the process of getting out into the workforce. I promise you, students, it's not as fun to be a grown-up as you think it's going to be. Okay, bills aren't fun, then you start having kids and you got more bills. And enjoy being young. The other challenge that we see students have when they accumulate a lot of College Credit Plus is this, especially on the 4-year side. Students will come in with a ton of credit, so therefore they've kind of supervented all those gen ed courses, and that's what everyone wants to do, right? Get the gen eds out of the way. They go right into a program and they figure out, oh, this isn't what I want to do. So now we've got to backtrack a little bit and help them figure out what they want to do, because they maybe didn't have that first year on campus to explore a little bit and try some things on. So use this program, in my opinion, to give yourself more flexibility. That's really what it comes down to. If you're thinking about a career field, like if I'm sitting here thinking about maybe I want to be an engineer, well then use this program to take a 100 level engineering course and find out if you really want to be an engineer. Maybe you'll save yourself one of the 3 major changes that the average college student has while they're in college. And if you get nothing else out of this program, great benefit. Again, if you can shave a year off a bachelor's degree, especially if you're knowing you're going to graduate school, awesome, do that. Don't try to get a bachelor's degree as quick as you can, as cheap as you can, because that typically doesn't work itself out well for students. And again, know who you are as a student, know what your goals are. But there are benefits to the program. You know, the other piece is textbooks. Textbooks are not cheap, especially at the freshman level, so if you can get someone else to pay for your textbooks for a Psych 101 or an English 101, by all means, those are the kind of courses that you want to opt into and take advantage of. And again, long term, you should be able to save yourself some time and money with this program. I just don't like it when students really try to expedite that timeline. I want you to enjoy being young, and I want you to figure out who you are and what your long-term goals are, and use this program to help you do that. Consequences. I already told you, some of the challenges that the students may have getting into a college, getting into a university. Here's the one that always makes the parents kind of perk up in the room. There are some big-time financial consequences for students who do not perform well in this program. The biggest piece is, so students, when you start taking college coursework, the government a few years back basically said, hey, we're tired of awarding all this financial aid to students who aren't finishing the job and then repaying us financial aid, right? Students were defaulting on student loans, all these things. So they came up with this equation called SAT, and it stands for Satisfactory Academic Progress. Essentially what it is, it's a scale, credits attempted versus credits earned. And we are seeing students who, I took one CCP course and I got a D in it, so I didn't pass it. So I've got 3 credits attempted, 0 credits earned. Well, when you're in that ratio, you're considered SAP ineligible, and it removes all your federal financial aid eligibility. Now, by show of hands, who in here can pay for a college education without a little bit of financial assistance? That's really just for my own personal interest. I want to know who has extra money. I work in nonprofit. So, you want to, again, part of putting yourself in the best position to be successful is optimizing the financial aid options that you have. The bad news is college isn't cheap, regardless of where you go, and some options are more affordable than others. But I would hate to see a student, because of something that happened in high school, lose their eligibility for federal financial aid. Now, can students work through that? Can they appeal that? Yes, but if we can avoid that, that's one less hiccup in the road for you as a student. So definitely keep that at the back of your mind. The other piece is, again, when we're looking at scholarships and merit money, not federally, we're looking at your academic criteria, your GPA, both at high school and college. And if you get yourself knocked out of a scholarship because of a College Credit Plus course, that's not the ideal scenario either. So definitely some big time pros and cons to the program, and you have to know who you are as a student and what's going to be the best option for you. In terms of expenses, here's the good news. This program is free of cost to you as a student, barring you hold up your end of the bargain. Okay, so you got to stay under that credit limit, right? If you do that, there is no tuition expense, there are no fees, there are no book expenses, and I'm going to let Mrs. Dunlap talk about how they handle the different textbooks with various colleges, because it's a little bit different for all of our colleges and universities in the program. If you decide to opt into a private college or university, there may be some fees associated with the program, but most of the public institutions are free. And the private schools, I can tell you because I worked in when we do what we can to keep those costs down for students. But no expense to you, with the exception of if you go over that credit hour limit or you fail a course. Again, another big time consequence, right? You fail the course, you assume financial responsibility for that course, and the district has every right, based off of the legislature, to say, hey, you have to reimburse us for that course. The other piece is, if you are borrowing a textbook or have purchased a textbook through the school has the right to ask for that textbook back if you don't return that. I have seen students, again, this is the responsibility piece. When you graduate, you get accepted to college, a college or university is going to say, hey, you have to give us a copy of your final high school transcript. If you've got a hold on your account because you didn't turn in a CCP textbook, that's going to stop you from scheduling courses at that college and university. So again, you got to be on top of your deadlines and things like that. But free program to you. As long as you hold up your end of the bargain, pass your class, stay below that credit hour limit. Now you may have to pay for parking, and then the other piece is, keep in mind you might be going to and from a college or university, so gas, other expenses like that. But in terms of the cost to be in the classroom, to be in the course, no expense to you as a student. You've got multiple layers of support. I mentioned that up front. You've got your school counselors, you've got academic advisors, and those academic advisors on our campus are required to provide the same assistance that they do to you as they would any college student. So you've got a lot of resources there to help you navigate this, but keep in mind that this is kind of your investment in your future, and we're going to do what we can to help you along the way. But ultimately, it's your time in the classroom, your future that you have to focus on. And there's benefits to doing that, and then you've got support. Utilize that support. And I have these conversations with students even at the junior, senior year, of college. Hey, we've got free tutors in every subject on campus. Use them. You've got an academic advisor. Talk to them. You folks have this whole other layer where you've got the school for some support too. Utilize those resources as well, and you'll do fine in the program. Kind of already talked about this as well, but you want to make sure that you're communicating the transferability of credits. 9 times out of 10, maybe even 95 times out of 100, if you're talking public college to public college, those credits will transfer. You start to go private to public, it can get a little bit murkier, but for the most part, the private schools do what they can, again, to accommodate students who have taken those courses. But if you know where you're headed for post-high school, really get in communication with that school and say, hey, what can I take through this program that's going to help me when I come there? Now, you're still going to run into some situations, especially when you talk about courses in math and science, where a lot of times we want you to take those courses at the college or university so you can have our lab component to go with the biology. Ohio State is a good example of that. If you're taking science courses, more than likely Ohio State's going to have you retake them. Because we want you to have that lab component with Ohio State. But again, Psych 101, the English 101, the Com 101, all those are great examples of courses that you're going to have to take wherever you go that you can get through this program, and they're going to transfer pretty seamlessly. But it does not hurt at all if you're thinking about going to Bowling Green as an example and being a communication major. Hey, how are these credits that I'm going to take through Tiffin University going to transfer, or whatever the case may be. And they'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you, because it's going to save them a tough conversation down the road if you follow their advice. So don't hesitate to reach out to the college or university. And again, college ready, there's a couple different definitions of that. There's, hey, I got a certain score on a test, and then there's also, am I ready to be a student in college? And I've done my best to emphasize that point tonight. The other one, and this isn't just for a cheap laugh, but keep in mind, parents, that college level coursework means college level content. I'll give you a good example of that. I had a student who was an 8th grader, and I got a phone call from his mom at the college level. She didn't understand why he was registered for a human sexuality class as an 8th grader. Well, because he had the freedom to register himself for that class, and he met the requirements for that course, and apparently it caught his interest for whatever reason. And you really, you can encourage your son or daughter to drop that class, but if they stay in that class, they're going to be expected to follow that content and complete the assignment. So just keep in mind, again, college level coursework, college level content, and you're making that decision when you opt into a college course. And again, it kind of seems redundant, but they want you to remember this stuff. So keep in mind, it's going to count for the GPA, it's going to be calculated on both, and it's going to be used in the calculation of financial aid. The big deadline, the intent to participate form, Mrs. Dunlap already gave that to you. April 1st is the deadline to get that in. And then you're going to want to check your ACT or SAT dates or AccuPlacer testing options to make sure that you're going to be able to get those scores back in time to meet the deadline for that college or university, because all of us are going to have different application deadlines that we expect students to meet. When you look at those schools, check the criteria for admission, check the deadlines, ask which testing requirements that they have for students. And if you're thinking about doing summer, know that those classes can start before the academic year ends. So you might be going through school, out until the middle of May. That summer term course could start at the beginning of May, and you would have some overlap there as a student to navigate. That's a lot of information. I covered it really quickly. You can go to this website here and track this presentation down with even more information. As I told you, I pared it down to kind of fit my time slot here. I cannot emphasize enough, folks. Ask the questions. Ask it to the college to make sure you're doing what they expect you to do, and then make sure that you're still handling your business back at the high school. And again, enjoy being a high school student. Use this program to help make yourself successful. Please don't rush the process of growing up. and definitely wish all of you the best of luck if you decide to pursue this. At the end of the day, focus on yourself. Am I ready for this? Is this going to help me? Not necessarily anyone else, because I want to hang out with my buddy in that college class. Does this help me get to where I want to go long term? If the answer to that is yes, then by all means, look into this program. And all of us on the college side are prepared to work with you and help you if you decide to look at our institution. That's all I have. I thank you. I don't think I saw anyone officially fall asleep. That's always my bearing on whether or not I did a decent job. So you folks have a good night.
Tom, you did really well. You kept that to like, I think under 35 minutes, so I'm impressed. Okay, so in the sake of time, I want to get through things pretty quickly. I want to be respectful of your evening. So if you would take out your packet on College Credit Plus at Upper Sandusky High School, I just want to highlight some of the things that weren't covered in the presentation that are specific to Upper. So the first page is the thing that I want to spend probably the most amount of time on because it's usually the area that I get the most questions on. It's this whole, how do we figure out this 30 credit hour? It's confusing because it's not just your college credits, it's your high school credits as well. You've got to take those into consideration when you're calculating that 30. So this is I just gave two examples of a pretty heavy caseload that some of our students take to just kind of compare, maybe where your student might be, just to give some examples. So before I start, I want to say that one high school credit is equal to those 3 like full-time status credits, what they're talking about. And then any college class is already in the denomination. So if it's a 1 college credit class, then it's worth 1 of those credits. So let's look at that junior year example. Like if you look at that first class, Advanced English 11, it counts as 1 high school credit, 0 college credit, for a total of 3 full-time status credits towards those 30. If you jump down to a college course, let's say College Environmental Science, it's 1 high school credit, 3 college credits, so we use what the college is already in, so it's 3 units towards that 30. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So this student, if you look at their schedule all year, you look at that bottom right-hand corner of total full-time status credits, they are at their 30, they are good to go. Let's drop down to the senior year example, because this is where sometimes it gets a little bit tricky. The college calculus class is worth 4 of those full-time status credits. That would mean if a student takes college calc and wants to do the MTC classes at Upper, he or she could not take 1 of those second semester. So if you see, I put in there, instead of taking 2 MTC classes in the spring, they would only be eligible for 1 MTC class in the spring, or they would need to drop something else in their schedule. So I will help any student with that if they have questions about that, but like Tom said, if you go over the 30, you will have to pay for that. That's something we can't change. So if there's any questions about that, please let me know, because I will help your student with that. Okay, let's go on to the back of that page. So some of you may be wondering, okay, what is actually available at Upper Sandusky High School? Or what are my options for my student to take? So under CCP opportunities, number 1, so a student can enroll in courses, obviously they must qualify eligibility-wise. Either they can take an online college class, or they could go to a college campus and take a course. Number 2, they would have the option, and they can do any combination of these. They're not locked into one or the other. So option 2 would be that they enroll in a college class at Upper Sandusky. So they don't have to leave, they're not doing anything online, the class is actually taught here. So I want to talk to you about what are those. So tentatively, if you jump down to the middle of that page, it says the University of Findlay. There's college calculus, which is 4 college credits, college environmental science, which is 3 college credits, college US history, which is 3 college credits. Those 3 classes are all taught by Upper Sandusky High School teachers who have been trained, they've been certified to teach those classes, and they are ran exactly like that course would be on a college campus. They are held to the same standards as if they were teaching it on a college campus. So those are the 3 that our teachers teach. Then Marion Technical College also comes to Upper. Again, these are tentative. This is what we're planning for next year. In the fall would be General Psychology and Western Civilization 1. Second semester would be Human Growth and Development and Western Civilization 2. We work very closely with Marion Technical College to choose classes that we think would transfer well for students regardless of where they're going to college. So these are some of the ones we had talked about that seem to work out the best for those. But I will say they're always subject to change. Occasionally something might come up, but that's what we're planning on right now. Okay, eligibility requirements at the bottom of the page. Regardless if you're taking the classes here, online, or on campus, you have to meet eligibility requirements, which will be on the last page we'll get to towards the end. Let's go on to the following page. That at the top it talks about quality points and class rank. I know I get a lot of questions on this topic, so I just want to make sure we're all clear on this. So if you're not familiar with our ranking system, how we rank students, as of right now, all classes are assigned quality points values. So the harder the class is, the more quality points you get for it. So you're rewarded for taking difficult classes. So all CCP courses, regardless what it is, where you take it, how you take it, will have the highest quality point values we offer, which is 1.4. We do not give quality points for classes taken over the summer. They will go to your GPA, they will count for high school credit, but it will not go toward rank. In addition, we only allow 8 classes per semester to go toward rank. So let's say a student, we've had this happen, really load up their day and take 8 classes here, and then they want to take an evening CCP class. That's great. That evening class will go towards GPA, high school credit, will not go towards rank. We want to be fair to everybody, so we're just taking 8 courses during the day to go towards rank. Okay, cost of CCP, we already touched on that. There's no fee really associated unless a student were to drop a course after the deadline or fail the course, that kind of thing. So that's kind of tied into repayment charges. Grades we already talked about, count as your high school GPA and your college GPA. Talk about school delays and cancellations. Athletic eligibility. Please note, students must be enrolled in 5 high school or equivalent credits per semester to be eligible, per quarter, to be eligible for athletics. Now, a college class is actually worth more high school credit than a typical high school semester credit. So if you have any questions about that, or your student does, please have them come see me. There's a little bit more of that in the curriculum guide, but if they have questions, just let me know. All right, the back page. This is a Google document that was shared with all 9th through 11th graders. I believe the middle school might have shared it as well. But this is the most up-to-date as of today for each college that typically our students attend. So you'll see the college listed on the left. Then the next column is eligibility criteria, so certain GPA requirements, ACT, AccuPlacer scores, that kind of thing. To apply, there's where you go for that, so there's a link, and also for more information. So the links that are listed will take you to the college's CCP page, and that's where you're going to need to get your application. Additional forms if needed. Some colleges require an additional form, which will be listed on their, if they have it listed there, it'll be on their page. Deadline for summer classes, so if anyone's interested in summer classes, be careful of the deadlines there. Deadline for fall classes, which is probably going to apply to the majority of students doing CCP. Where to find available courses, that's always a question I get. Mrs. Dunlap, how do I know what courses are available to me? That's a good place to start, the website's here. Now you will be assigned a college advisor who will walk you through that a little bit more, but at least if you want to get a jump start on, hey, what are some things that I might be able to take, definitely check out those websites. Then there's just a CCP contact person. So every college will have their own CCP advisor or administrator that can help walk you through this process if you have questions, and then any additional info. So again, this was shared with all students on their Google Drive, so you can access this at any point. Just the most important thing, students are the ones that are responsible for meeting deadlines and turning in the paperwork they need. Mrs. Cheney and I are there to help if you have questions, to kind of clarify some things, but ultimately it's the student's responsibility. Okay. Going back to the forms. So the green form, if everybody can take that out, I just want to show you a couple of things. This is the state form that must be in by April 1st, 2018. That is a state mandated deadline. It basically just says that the student and their parent or guardian has been advised on the CCP process and intends to participate in the program. Doesn't mean you have to, doesn't mean you're locked in, but we have to get that sheet back in particular in order for you to participate. So that's for any CCP class. Doesn't matter how, where, why, that's for any CCP course. Now, each college is going to have its own application. Show of hands in the back of my college reps. How many of you, the applications are available right now online? Anybody not? Perfect. Okay. So what I would encourage is maybe over break to dive into that. If they're thinking about a certain college, get the application out of the way, because that will get the ball rolling. Okay. So those are the main things. Again, take the packet home, read through it. If you have questions, you can see me, Mrs. Cheney, whatever's easier. Does anyone have questions about the CCP program in general? Because we'll save individual colleges for after the program. But any CCP questions in general? Tom, you did a really good job.